Welcome to Incredibly Ordinary, the podcast about ordinary people with incredible stories, hosted by Lance Billings, Josh Kilsch, and Nate Reynolds from Billings Group Financial Advisors. But okay, cool. Yeah, which one is this?
It's their actual blacksmith blend.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
I don't know. I like their seasonal, like the Christmas ones, my favorite ones.
Oh yeah, yeah. Merry and Bright, I think.
But don't they change it every year?
I don't know. I think they do because, I think Sam. I don't know.
Do you guys blacksmith it daily?
Every week,
pretty close.
Every week I do.
Nice.
Yeah. Tuesday's double punch day.
Yeah,
so,
double punch day
on your card. Yeah. So
we need something like that at the Y. I like that idea. Double punch day, double the points.
Hey,
it's like
there you go.
What's funny is things like that. Every Tuesday, I'm like, okay, it's Tuesday. The first thing that goes through my mind is double punch day. I'm not kidding. I know it's stupid, but it's true.
It's not. Yeah, like, it gets people going and gets you thinking. It's working for you.
Yeah. Is that why every Tuesday you always call me, hey, do you want coffee this morning?
That's it. That's right. Yeah.
So.
And I like Saturday mornings going to Lindsberg. Have you been inside their shop there?
I have. Yep, just off the main strip there. Yeah,
really cool.
It is
very
really
nice.
cool.
Yeah, cool place to study. And always see a lot of clients, see a lot of friends over there.
Yep.
People that I had my daughter with me last Saturday. We went across the street to Gallery of the World, or I don't know the name of it, but Jim Richardson. He's a photographer. It's an art studio, but it's his art. He was the National Geographic. He's one of the photographers for National Geographic, and he's got all of his work in there. It's a really cool place. Yeah.
Where's this at?
It right across the street from Blacksmith in Lindsberg, and he's in there. And
can you buy the photos?
Yeah, so I got this one. I bought a print, and it's of a church floor, I think, in France, and it's this light coming through the stained glass, and it's the colors on the stone. So I'm gonna hang it up in here. But he took it, and he's got stuff all from Scotland, and it's really neat work. But then he sits in there, and man, I don't know how old he is, 70s, 80s. Yeah, I think that was his wife that works in there too. And then they've got other artists, local artists that have done color pencils and stuff. So my daughter's really into art, so we saw it. We're like, let's go over there. And then I was like, I'm gonna buy a print from this guy. And he actually has his studio is across this. So he has two shops. And because I said, hey, do you have that one? Because the actual painting or the actual photograph that's framed, I think it was $900. So I was like, give a print of that. And so he went across the street and brought it back. $45 later, I got a print.
Hey,
so,
that's pretty cool.
It's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's his work. And
so they do have a kids section to it. You said something about colored pencils in your daughter.
Oh yeah. So there was some local art featured in there of a lady who does colored pencil art or watercolor, and there's a lot in there to see. So and then they do have some kids books and drawing books and things like that. So it's really just a really nice shop.
Nice.
You know?
Cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I didn't even know it was there. I go there all the time. But
wow,
sounds good.
Well, hey, we've got Chris. Okay. Is it Lehecka?
Nope, Lehecka.
Lehecka, there we go. Okay, Chris Lehecka here. And Chris, you are the director at the YMCA, right?
Yes.
And you're also one of the co-race directors for Salina Cross Roads Marathon.
Right.
And so, awesome, man. We're glad to have you on. Just kind of hear more about you and your involvement with Crossroads Marathon, YMCA, and then kind of your background. And
thanks for having me. This is fun. Thanks for the coffee, too.
So are you from Salina area then, or?
I spent some time in Salina, so I grew up in Wichita, just down the road, but I've been here, my wife and I, Tawny, have moved here 3 times now. So third time moving here about 5 years ago. I used to coach women's basketball, so I've coached at Kansas Wesleyan here in town. Spent some time out at Colby Community College out in northwest Kansas. Brown Mackey College, before they shut the doors. And then we actually took a year out to Portland, Oregon. So I was at Portland State for a year. So beautiful running community and nature out that way. But yeah, we moved back 5 years ago to Salina for a third time. So probably 7 or 8 years total in Salina.
I don't think you're allowed to leave, man.
I know, we're not leaving again. No, there's something that keeps pulling us back. So I think our roots are stronger this time.
Cool. Okay. And so I know you are big in the running community now. Has running always been something like growing up? Did you do a lot of sports growing up, or?
Did a lot of sports. Basketball was a big thing for me, so I did cross country a couple times in high school just to prepare for basketball season. So I've always been into the wellness, but never strong or highly competitive in the running community. It was back in actually around COVID, around 2020. I needed something to do, so I looked up some different races to kind of challenge me and inspire some change. I was about 230 pounds at the time, and so searching for a race, I started training for this race out in West Virginia. It's a 100-mile race. It was beautiful, and I thought we could take a little family vacation out there. So started training for that, lost 30 pounds, and that's really what that guy out there, that's what inspired me to get into running a little bit more. I still don't consider myself very highly competitive or elite or anything. I love the challenge of getting out and running. It's kind of my just...
So hold on. The first race that you went to do was 100 miles?
So I've done, I've done some 5Ks.
Screw the marathon. Let's just go.
I'll step back. I've done some 5Ks, and I did a half marathon in Wichita, and I did a marathon in Wichita. And my marathon time was 4 hours and 30 minutes, which is very average, but it's good. I finished.
You did that before the 100-miler?
Yes, about 3 years prior.
Okay.
Cool.
So I was thinking it was like, I need a challenge, go big or go home, and they're like, 100-miler, let's do that.
But I'm telling you, I'm sitting there on the couch just looking up different races, and I wanted to do something that, like I said, beautiful scenery. And if you look up this race in West Virginia, it was the first year for it. It's a rim to river race out in West Virginia, and it's just beautiful. I mean, it's got a big royal gorge. The river's beautiful, and it's about 14,000 feet of elevation gain.
How long does that take? 100?
They give you 32 hours to finish. So you start at 8 a.m. on a Saturday, and they send you off all kinds of aid stations and support. Well, I shouldn't say all kinds, because you're out in the mountains.
Yeah.
But when you get to an aid station, maybe every 8 to 10 miles, there's people there to cheer you on, play music, and give you all kinds of food, junk food, really, so just anything.
Now this guy's going to be leaving for like a week to go to West Virginia.
He's already told me about it, and I've already looked it up.
So this guy, he had talked about this race for about 10 years, and you can imagine planning a route for 100-mile race in the mountains, how long that would take.
And West Virginia is pretty rugged in the mountains too. It's
beyond rugged, right? So I mean, they got a whole team that goes out on 4-wheelers and chainsaws to clear the course and mark it.
Wow.
But it was the first year for it, and the thing took off because it's beautiful, and it's in November. So it's right when the leaves are the perfect colors, and the scenery is just it's fantastic. So 200 to 250 people sign up for this race, and registration opens for it January 1st at midnight, and within 24 hours registration's closed. So you have to celebrate the new year and sign up for it at the same time if you want to jump on it. So there's about 250 people on the waiting list right now for this year.
That's amazing.
Are you doing it this next year then? Are you going to try and?
I'm not. Okay. My wife was very supportive and going out there with me for 2 years.
So you've done it twice now?
I've done it twice. Okay. I made it 72 miles the first time and 77 miles the second time. And we kind of talked about finishing the race and how tough that is to. But there's joy in the journey. There's joy in the process of the training and bettering yourself. But man, it's like game day, right? And it's like you technically, in your mind, you didn't win, but 72 or 77 miles is a big win when you really break it down. Year one, I'd stumbled upon rhabdo. I got to about mile 71, and it's 10 o'clock at night, and I think that's between a lack of nutrition and taking some ibuprofen. To try and...
Wait, what did you say, rhabdo?
That's like liver failure. I think the muscle breaks down and it attacks the liver, right?
Yes. And it was pretty scary. One of the scarier moments.
It's like a life emergency almost.
Yes. So I went to it's mile 71, and at mile 72 there was another aid station. But it's 10 o'clock at night. It's dark. I'm sweaty, and I had an aid station about 5 miles ago with my wife, who was feeding me ramen noodles. I'm sitting in a chair with a blanket over me. So I get going, and like I said, I'm sweaty. You're down by the river, so it's a little bit cooler, right? And you don't plan for it, maybe like you should, especially being from Kansas. Anyways, I start going, and I start feeling it. I start feeling dizzy, tired, and you're like, okay, you can push through this pain. You can push through it. Just get to the next level. Find your next zone. But, man, I tell you, I felt like I was going to collapse, and I just knew I had to make it to some help because it's remote. There's nobody really near you. So I did make it to the next aid station, and I had these severe cramps. I've never felt it before, but it started from my feet and went all the way up through my legs, through my body. And, I was screaming in pain. They called my wife and had her come get me, pick me up, and take me back to our Airbnb. And the guy...
This is the second time that you did the race?
Nope, this was the first time I did the race. And what was cool is, so I recovered well, got in the bed. They gave me some... Wife took care of me, nutrition, and got some rest. And 12 hours later, I'm up walking around eating breakfast. But it's just in that moment where your body is just taking such a toll. And that's why that nutrition part of that whole deal is, half the battle.
Because it's not so much just a running endurance. It's how much can your gut take, too, like eating-wise and food-wise during those longer races.
Right. Yeah, the nutrition balance. And there's plenty of, we'd say you run 100 miles. There's plenty of, everyone's got their different percentage breakdown of how much they run versus how much they walk. But you attack the 100 miles running and walking. So that was year one. Year two, you have that competitive nature in you. I got to go back, got to tackle this.
Well, it's kind of like, it's competitive towards yourself, right?
It is. And that's the cool thing is it's the whole life parallel, right? It's the mental part of it is that you run your own race. So everyone signs up for a race for a different reason. Everyone's at a different part of their training in their life. Everyone's at a different point in their life with different things. So comparing yourself to the next guy is something you can't do. Sure that's a yes and no. The competitive nature, I'm going to beat that guy because you signed up for a race. But what are your goals, essentially? So maintaining that mental part of it is big when you sign up for those things. That way you don't set your expectations where they shouldn't be.
I like how you break that down because, I think my mind growing up, the word race means that there's, it's against others. Mm-hmm. But then, in what you guys have been doing and what I've been learning from Nate's talking about the marathons and stuff all the time is it's that journey for yourself. I like the way that you put that. That's a good metaphor.
Yeah, no, I love that. Something to grab onto for sure. So year two, went out there again. Anyway, a buddy of mine went out there with me to pace me. You can have a pacer halfway through that joins you at mile 50. And so we kind of battled and went through the night together. And at one point I kicked a rock, stubbed my toe pretty good, and kind of rolled my ankle. And we made it to 7 a.m. And it was a lot of a slower process to get there, but ended up calling again. It's funny. I called. So I've called my wife twice to come pick me up. Right. And I told my wife before the race started, year two, I said, listen, I'm going to call you at some point. It's going to absolutely suck. I'm going to be hurting. I'm going to be in pain. I'm going to call you at 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. I'm going to complain. I'm going to be tired. I'm going to want to stop. Don't let me. So,
oh no.
Right. And she told me, she said, Chris, you told me, we had about a 5-minute conversation about it. But it's essentially she came and picked me up, and that was it. But at some point, I'll go back out to West Virginia, and maybe we can make the trip out there together. But
again, the fact that you've done it twice. You haven't got the 100-mile goal yet, but you're doing something that less than 1% of the population even attempts to do. Even if you haven't, that's what the cool part is. What I noticed on the last race that we were at was how many of these people are actually putting themselves in that difficult situation, even though they might not complete it. It's they're still going again and again and again. And it's not, and that's where what amazed me was not so much the individuals who got in first or top three was like the ones who were out there with like 10 minutes left at the cutoff and still like going hard. That's a cool part.
That is the cool part. Yeah. And that's when you love it, I think, is when you put yourself in that situation where there are no other options. So you just have to figure it out, right? There's no excuses, no other option. You just have to battle through, and you literally have to take your mind to another level of, okay, yes, everything hurts. I just want to stop, but you just keep going. And that is, again, the parallel. That's why I love running in the ultra thing so much, is just kind of put yourself in a life perspective. Because there are times during my day-to-day, whether it's work or family, like if my kid, if I just want to go lay on the bed and watch sports or something for a second, and my kid comes up to me and says, "Hey, Dad, let's go play in the driveway." You can't say no to that. For even no matter how tired you are, it's like, wait a second, what am I doing?
I'm going to back up real quick. So you did a marathon, and then you said you had about 3 years before that and this 100-miler attempt. Did you just kind of like have no motivation after the marathon and just started gaining weight? Like how did that, was it just like, screw it, I'm done running, I'm tired of this, or?
So the marathon was a deal with my brother. I just wanted to sign up for something and get it off the list. I've never done a marathon, so let's do it. And then I think just my job at the time was down in Wichita, and just life. I was active and doing other things, but I just never really had the motivation or even the knowledge to know kind of what was out there. Someone to introduce me to it, to really sign up for another race.
Okay.
So it was kind of a box, checked it off, marathon. But then when the ultra thing came up, about a few years later, I'm like, okay, this is the right time in my life where I feel like I've got some support and availability to attack it. So it was cool. I was able to grab onto that. And I will say that the West Virginia thing, the guy he created, that was the first year for the race. Part of that inspiration was, you talked about the Crossroads. Like, I don't know if we can transition into the Crossroads deal, but we didn't have, there's no race in Salina like that. I'm not.
How long were you back being in Salina before you helped develop that? Because if you just, so you're pretty new back to Salina again then.
Yeah. 2 years.
Man, dude. Okay.
Yeah, 2 years. Came back, and I saw Daniel Craig's name pop up in the running. I mean, he's fast, right? He's winning races, and he's the guy for winning all the 5Ks and everything, even halves and all that in Salina and even around. But I shot him a message on Facebook and just said, "Hey, what do you think about trying to put together a marathon in Salina?" And we met for some food downtown, and just discussed it. And I didn't have any knowledge really on putting together an event or a race, but I had an ambition and drive to like make something fun and exciting, bring a little bit of that ultra fun feel to a marathon or a race, just some fun music and environment. And Daniel has all the knowledge. He's put together. He's part of the Fafer Cure race downtown, and he's just really involved in the running community. So we started talking 18 months before the initial race.
And 21 was the first year, right? If I remember right. Or was it 20? Or was it 22?
22.
Okay,
so, but we started talking about 18 months before that, and some of the initial conversations we had with the city and Salina PD, and just other people, they were thinking that we were trying to put together a race for that November. So in about 5 or 6 months, which could have been doable, but we both agreed and just talking, we wanted to make sure we did everything right, and there's more of a process. So one of the big things was getting the race USA Track and Field certified, which I had no knowledge of, but I talked to a guy out of Lawrence who comes and measures and you guys talked to Daniel about this already quite a bit, I think.
And the fact he mentioned that part alone was like, that has to be like to the T detailed wise, like measuring the course, right? Because he said that if somebody breaks a record on that course, they'll come back and remeasure it. And there's been times where they got the measurement wrong and they've taken away the title?
There's been races, even up in Kansas City, last couple of years where a volunteer put a cone, maybe a quarter mile short of a turnaround point. And so a lot of runners put their personal record times or a record time. It didn't count, or they qualified for Boston and it didn't count. Yeah.
So is that a lot of pressure then on you guys? You think there's a lot of detail. That's just one aspect of getting a race. And so was it overwhelming, you think?
The process to get it, the most overwhelming part is race day morning, right? When you're marking the course, like when those guys come and measure, they have a pretty detailed map, and they make the map and send it to you. So it's there for you to mark the course on race day. But when the race starts and the runners start going on the course, that's where it feels overwhelming to think, okay, there's nothing we can do now. Hopefully the course is what it should be.
It's going.
That's right. It's done.
Do you need more coffee, by the way?
Please. That'd be great. Let's see. But it's the first year, our goal was every time we talked to a business or any potential sponsors, we said, our goal for all the races was 300 to 400. And it actually got up to 800 year one, which was pretty neat.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Andrew Manley.
We don't know him personally, but I know the name.
Over at First Bank, but he's big into he's done a couple Ironmans, and he's big in the running community. But he came up with the idea for a team relay portion of the event, which is pretty neat too. Because if you want to do a half or a full, but you don't want to do the whole distance, like the three of us could all sign up for a half marathon, and you take 4 miles, I'll take 3 miles, and then you take the last 5 or 6. Yeah. But so anyway, that
cool.
Created a cool element to it.
Okay, so was your experience doing the 100-miler then what brought you to want to bring that environment to Salina?
I'd say so. Yeah, that inspired, like the fact that he created something. It's like, okay, we could do something. There's a big time supportive community, and there's in Salina to make something like that happen. I was kind of surprised that one didn't exist. There's been a couple marathons in Salina in the past. I think back in 1982 and 83, there were a couple of marathons, and then Christina Humphrey about 6 or 7 years ago, I think had a marathon that she put together. For some cancer awareness was a big part of that. Yeah, Christina is actually one of the first people we reached out to, just out of respect for what she had done with it before, just to see if she'd help us out and be a part of it. And
the fact that you guys grew like crazy from year 1 to year 2, and now, you're knocking on the door of 5,000, right?
Yeah, it's 4,500 right now.
That is crazy, the growth in 2-3 years on that.
It is. I think that's a big testament to the community, the volunteers, and the sponsors. So the way the race is structured is, and we agreed from the start, that there's not going to be a dime in our pockets for any of the race directors or staff or anything. We wanted to give 100% of the race registrations back to youth sports. So I think both years it's been around $37,000 total given back to 5 or 6 different organizations. I say 5 or 6 because we added one last year, but and between the volunteers and the sponsors, so we go around. There's probably 50 different organizations that help, whether it's in kind or financially, to be a part of it. They cover the operation cost of it, and then we're able to give 100% of the race registrations back. The volunteers too. There's over 200 volunteers. We get local organizations to help with the aid stations. But you guys, you know how it is when you're out and you're struggling, you're on a run or something like that, and you just hear that any event that you go to, and you have that support from the random person that you don't know, but they're cheering you on. It just makes the difference. So, start to finish, I think the race has created a pretty good experience that people want to talk about. When they come pick up their packets at Homewood Suites downtown, that's a great presentation of Salina.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we use the ballroom and the courtyard there, and have some vendors and some fun music. And then we did scoot the race down. It started outside of Homewood Suites year 1, and then this next year, what Salina Downtown has done with City Light Stage has been pretty neat. So the race is now at Santa Fe and Ash downtown, so we can have a live band and some music and a festival. But so many people have stepped up over last year and the year before to just take different components of the race, like our risk management and our safety part of it. Salina family, Janelle Heimer, has really taken the lead on making sure that Dr. Westbrook, actually, over at Maori Clinic, have done a great job of being a part of it from day one and making sure that the aid stations have proper equipment. I mean, last year we had a guy go down. I don't know if you guys
went to the hospital,
that.
Right?
Yeah,
like a heart attack or something, or
nearly died on the course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the weird twist story to that. And he's got a pretty odd, sick sense of humor. This guy, Brian Rice, actually is his name. He's coming back. This is an amazing story. Guess what he dressed up as to start the race? I'm going to find this picture and share it with you guys, but you won't believe it.
Like a doctor or something, or like a
character from Squid Game.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, and this guy
the whole show's about like dying, right, and death,
right
in a game.
In a game, yeah.
You might win or you might die.
So he collapses on the course. Yeah, has a heart attack, and like I said, Janelle and her team and the volunteers were able to help get him to the hospital. And I mean, he spent a few days at the hospital.
Yeah, I don't think about. I'm like, oh, a race is happening, marathon's happening in my city, and then, to hear you and like when we talked to Daniel, I think, wow, that's going on here and all the things that go into it. But then, like you said, when it goes, the variables of something like that, it's to have awesome volunteers and people that are going to respond when necessary. That's
right. No, you're right. And even the emergency response path to get there, when you have runners and streets blocked off, that it's not. You should create that 100% direct shot
or shooting from the hip. It's planned, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
That's
so. This guy recently posted. Brian posted on his Facebook page about a week ago. He asked if he could start where he left off, where he fell at the race last year. So we're going to create a little personal start line for him, so he can start where he left off and finish the race this year.
Chalk outline.
You know what? He would appreciate.
I was going to say, you said he had dark humor. So
he does.
Start laying down like that. And if I remember right, too, reading this, was he trying to do like a marathon or something like that in every state, or is that?
I don't know. He might have. I think he was a part of the 50-state club. So there's a. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, maybe I'm mixing up stories, but I thought he was a part of that, trying to like do a marathon in each state or something.
Yeah,
like
so and I think he might have been a part of that, where there's a big community that people just try and run a marathon in each of the 50 states, and we get a big draw from that as well.
Yeah. Man. Again, the blow up of that in a good way is it's really cool seeing that, and the impact I think too it's having on Salina. And I think Salina is kind of known for being like an arts kind of community, but now the fact that you're bringing in sports and bringing in that kind of crowd too is really cool.
Yeah, and the registration part too makes it is inviting, right? Cause
like unbundling the shirt and stuff. Is that what you're talking about? Or
that? Yep, and the low registration cost too. So credit to Daniel for kind of coming up with that. Is $5, $10 to get into a race. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, I mean, you're going to pay. Our ultimate goal is to get people here in Salina, right? To enjoy the race, be a part of it, and just see the town. So if they can pay $5 or $10 for the registration cost, and we have sponsors that are, gracious enough to help cover some of the operations, and just get people here, then they spend money while they're here. It's just a good economic push. In several ways. But what we did do, as you talked about, Nate, with the separating the shirts, I think I talked to you about that, was to be a little more fiscally responsible. We spent a ton of money on shirts, and it's so tough to gauge who's actually going to show up, because about 15, a rule of thumb for races, about 15% don't show up for whatever reason, injuries, schedules.
Really?
Yeah, so you sign up for a race, and then get to that weekend, you're like, I'm not sure if I can make it this weekend. Kids, whatever life event comes up. But what we did this year, so we can keep our mission of giving 100% of the race registrations back to youth sports, is we separated the registration cost and the T-shirt cost. So we gave runners the option of buying a T-shirt. Not everyone wants a T-shirt. A lot of people do. But if you run the same race every year and you already have a shirt, or you have a closet full of shirts, and you're like, I don't need another running shirt. We just give them the option of having a shirt or not. So we said $5 or $10 if you want to register for a special deal, and then $20 extra if you'd like a shirt or not. So we can keep that shirt cost aside from the registration fees.
And the fact, too, that you guys have had a huge support from local businesses and communities, too, I think it's also cool seeing that, where you have the business community really supporting it also.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be possible without, you guys' support. So thank you guys for Billings, for supporting the race. And without the sponsors and the businesses being involved, both as volunteers, aid stations, and financially, it wouldn't be possible. You can have a great idea, but we wouldn't have funding to make it happen and make it a cool race. So thank you guys for being a part of it.
And then you, Daniel, and Andrew, not taking a profit either. I think that's really cool too. You guys saying, hey, you know what? This is not about us making a profit. It's about let's bring this to the community. It
is cool. No, I appreciate you saying that. And there's that, and there's plenty of other volunteers that do it. But that part of the race will never change. That's how strong that feeling is within the committee of the marathon. And it is important. It's just, hey, let's just all do this together and do our part to bring something cool to Salina. And there's so many people and organizations that are a part of it.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped for the race this year. And
are you running?
Yeah.
You are
yeah.
the full, or
the full.
You signed up for the full, which is nothing compared to what you just did in the 100-degree.
Let's talk about that, because I know both of you are not going to mention talking about yourself.
Mention that he just won a 50K this last weekend, his first one ever.
Thank you, Chris.
Before we get there, I want to back up a little bit more. And how did you become involved in coaching? Like, did you go to college to do sports, or how did you get into the coaching world?
Nice. No, that's a cool question. So I went to K-State, graduated, and spent about a semester after trying to figure out what I was going to do next.
Like all of us.
Thank you. It makes me feel human.
No one knows what we're doing. Like, change your degree and major 10 times. And
I forgot why I was in Salina, but I got connected with the Heart of America basketball camps.
Okay.
So are you guys familiar with
Not
that?
familiar, but
so I don't know how many years. I'm going to butcher this. Maybe it's 25 or 50. I know it's a wide range, but it's been around forever. Ken Cochran, who created Papa Shot, used to run it. Now Troy Thrasher's in charge of it, who's an assistant women's coach down at Cali and Arc City Community College. But anyways, it's a summer basketball camp, and I worked that just as a coach, summer deal, and met a couple coaches. I said, actually, one of the guys was an assistant coach at Brown Mackey, and asked if I wanted to get involved with coaching. And I didn't play. Basketball's always been a part of my life, but I didn't play in college anywhere. And I said, well, yeah, actually, it sounds amazing. I'd love to try it. So I went down on a recruiting trip with him down to Oklahoma, just a volunteer deal, and just to check it out. And I overheard the coach from Colby at the time saying he was having trouble finding someone to work for $10,000 as an assistant coach and a meal ticket in the dorm room. And at 23 years old, I'm like,
yep,
I'm your guy. So sure enough, about a month later, I packed up my car and I drove out to Colby, Kansas. And it was my
plains.
That's it, man. That was my dream.
And you're
job.
not married here yet, right? You're single and not
right.
Okay.
Yep. So I did that for a year, and then got connected with Ryan Showman, who's now the head women's coach at Kansas Wesleyan, and Gordon Reimer at the time. But I worked at Kansas Wesleyan for 3 years, and that was kind of the initial start to getting involved with coaching. And what's amazing is you think, what are you going to do for your career and the rest of your life? And when I got into coaching, I'm like, okay, I got to get my master's degree, get my resume in a different pile than the next person, and coaching is going to be my deal forever. But fast forward to where I got in after coaching. I did meet my wife. Actually, I coached my sister-in-law at Kansas Wesleyan, so she introduced me to my current wife, which is a cool connection here at CADA. But we got away from the coaching thing, settled down in Andover with my family, near my family for a few years, and I did some security system sales, and then after that we came back up to Salina with my wife's job. But at some point I thought to myself that the coaching thing, I was you get into the zone of depression or thinking like, what am I to do in life? But the coaching thing, what I've really gained the perspective of and where I'm at now, which is cool, is that you can coach in any capacity, right? You're not coaching on the sidelines necessarily, but whether it's coaching kids or coaching your team and your organization where you're at. So that really fills my cup with coaching. And I actually officiate high school basketball now, so that keeps me in the realm of basketball and on the hardwood.
So is that what the attraction of the YMCA was? It's like, hey, I can kind of, it's a coaching view, but a lot more broad in the sense of different sports and different programs.
Big time.
Okay.
Yeah, there are so many different elements to the YMCA. There's, outside of just a gym, you got aquatics, you got gymnastics, all the child care programs. It's got a big child care reach, probably more than what is known in Salina. We've got child care at the YMCA, and then we've got 2 additional facilities in town for child care. I didn't know that. We've got a pretty good reach of a food program through our child care, which is nice. But yeah, there's a lot more to the YMCA than just the wellness component, which is a big deal, because I was just talking to one of our personal trainers the other day who, the personal training thing that's coaching, you change lives. So it's really cool. It's a great element to be a part of. So yes, the coaching thing, I get to fill my cup that way too at the YMCA.
And how long have you been the director at the Y for now?
So I started as the associate executive director in 2023 in September. Our CEO left to take a job in Kansas City. Angie Lasley took a job in Kansas City. She had been there for 11, 12 years here in Salina. And so I became the interim. The board voted. I was the interim director for two months. And then just yesterday morning, they removed the interim tag. So I'm officially
awesome.
The new opportunity as a CEO.
Congrats on that. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
So Josh does the Bible study there once a week now.
I only do it for the month.
Yeah. Okay.
So I did it for the month of August.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
I've seen you in there. That's again another great wellness component of what you can do there. And
that group, they all have coffee together, and then they were telling me one of the guys had organized that a couple years back, and so then I was asked to do it. I think
it was last year, wasn't it?
It might have been 2 years ago.
Okay.
And it would have been. I think it had been 2 years ago. So I did that, and then I was asked to do it like 7 months ago, and I was like, yeah, sure, hit me up. And then when I got the call, I'm like, oh, that's next week. So I did the last 4 weeks, and so probably do it again next year. So
it's a full room every time I walk by and see it.
Yeah, I think there's about 12 people in that little conference room, which is super nice. And the first time I did, I think there were 2 people in there, and they were like, who is this guy? They're like...
Well, you're doing something right then if you got more than 2 people in there.
Well, I think
they
built it up over the last 2 years, so there's a pretty good group there.
Cool.
But
nice.
Yeah.
All the dynamics of the Y that
right.
you wouldn't even know that.
So does your role change quite a bit from like what you do? Has it changed quite a bit from moving from like the associate or the assistant now to the main guy?
It does. Just in the, I would say, getting out of the operations part of it as much as you can. I mean, there really is a strong team over there, and people that have been there for 20-some years, and even if they've been there for a couple of years, there's just some great individuals there to make things work. And so letting them do their thing, but helping oversee. And when you do some of the planning or prep for an event or a program, that's sometimes the fun thing. But I have to do a good job of trying not to be a part of it, which, I care about what you're doing, but I can't be in that meeting right now because I tried to focus on some bigger picture stuff, and fundraising. The annual campaign's a big deal to try and drive that. But, anyways, it is a little bit different. In my role there, I was working a little bit closer with some of that. And so stepping away has been a change.
Yeah.
It's stepping away, but staying involved. Like you have to stay involved and be present, but being able to say no to certain things is tough because I'm kind of a yes guy. I believe in like, yeah, we can make that work.
We'll get
but
it.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. That's all. Yeah. Congrats on the official title now.
Thanks.
So.
Yep.
I will throw the ball back since he deflected it a couple of seconds ago. But can we talk about the win of the 50K?
Do the race now.
Well, so I'll ask the question because I don't even know what was the race called.
Hell Creek, half and 50K.
And it was, where was it at?
At Wilson Lake, the
You
Switchgrass
sent me a
mountain bike trail.
The picture of the trail, and I was like, where the heck is that?
I mean,
because it's
beautiful
like all these bodies
trail.
of water and stuff.
God, yeah.
It is beautiful. It is a little bit tight. It's got a mountain bike trail, so your footing, it challenges your footing pretty good.
I mean, there's some ruts there where you have to like almost hop to the grass for a little bit to get back on there because it just,
So how many people?
35?
I think there was like 31 to 34 in the 50K. I think like 37-ish in the half.
Yeah.
And
So that was this past Saturday.
Yeah, last Saturday.
And what was the temperature? 100?
It got up to over 100.
It was over. And
Yeah.
there's
And
probably
humidity,
2 trees out there.
Yeah, there's not a lot. The first like 2 hours were gorgeous. I mean, it was in the 80s. We had a good breeze.
What time did you start?
8 in the morning.
Oh, 8.
Yeah. And I mean, the first 2 hours, you're like, oh, this is,
I can do this all day.
man, this is incredible.
Right.
Well, then the sun came up more, and you're like, okay, this is not. I won't say this is not fun, because parts of it were fun. Well, it was miserable and fun. You love it and you hate it. It's a weird relationship, but yeah, it was eye opening.
So marathon is 26.2.
0.2. Yep.
Okay, I actually didn't know that.
And so anything past 26.2 is considered an ultra marathon.
An ultra.
Yep.
Okay.
And most marathons are on like pavement and road, and the most ultras are trails and
right.
It's like
rugged.
hiking.
So this was 32 miles.
32-ish. It was like I think
So,
31
that's
is
how
the
you-
31 and
official-
change,
Yeah,
It's easy to say 50K. It was that kind of the idea. It was just the 50K.
because like there's nothing ever. I don't think there's any ultra race. Again, this is my first one, so I can't speak from experience. But from reading and hearing people talk,
But he won the race.
He won the race.
I'm going to say that
Yeah,
again.
First place. You got to tell the story though, because you were running out there, and then you stopped at one of the aid stations, and you thought that they said that you were in second. Keep going. And I don't know what you were going through mentally at that point, or what mile marker you were at. But so then you started trying to play catch up, and
yeah,
you were actually in first the whole time.
my expectation. I remember texting you the week before. I was like, "Hey, are you bringing a drop bag? Like, what are we supposed to bring here?" And you mentioned like, "Hey, yeah, I'm bringing this and this and this." I'm like, "Oh, okay, I probably should get something prepared for that." And then you were asking like, "What do you think your time's going to be?" I'm like, "I just want to finish it, but maybe like around 7 hours." Is what my goal is based off of like my training, how fast I think I can run. And so I came in just like, I told my wife, I said, hey, it was the week leading up, like, man, I really hope I can finish this. Like, I really hope I can get through it. And she has the best motivation. She said, listen, if I can give birth to 4 kids, you can do 31 miles. You'll be okay. I said, all right, I can't back away now. Like she just called me out.
Yeah, she did.
So, but yeah, it was it was definitely, I don't even know the words to experience. I mean,
we started at 8 o'clock, and like he said, the weather was nice. I'd say he passed me about 9 o'clock, and I never saw him again until now. Yeah,
you were. I mean, again, I was behind. There was one guy I was with for a little while. I wish I remember his name. He had the ankle injury, a partial way through it.
Okay, I'm not sure.
Man, he's from Wichita area.
Okay,
but I remember we were running. He's like, "Hey man, how you doing?" Because I was having my vest, I had my bladder in there with my flasks. He's like, "Hey, just a good tip for you. If you take your bladder and you turn it upside down and squeeze the air out of it, it won't have the swashing sound of the water." I'm like, "Oh man, okay, I appreciate that." He's like, "Yeah. So how many races have you done?" So this is my first one. So any tips you give me, man? He's like, "Oh, okay, cool, yeah. This is probably the hardest one you chose for your first one, but good luck." And so we were talking for a little bit, and that's the cool part I like about it too is every runner, if you're with them for a little bit, it's just talking to you, giving you advice. Like it's like you mentioned, it's a competitive sport. You still want to win it, I think, or you're in there to try and at least give your shot a chance to win. But it's so much a team sport because everyone's there is rooting for you, cheering for you, giving you advice, helping you along, and that was the coolest part about it. I think seeing that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there was one point too where this guy was struggling. Noticeably struggling to even jog a little bit. But I told myself I had to get past him just because I was hurting watching him hurt. So like I wanted to give him encouragement, but I just got to get past him, get my mind to a better spot.
They've done those tests where like they have a group of like teenagers or 20-somethings in like a room, and then they like put a group of people that are older that walk with canes, like they walk in front of them. And I'm butchering this whole scenario, but it caused it. They did the study, and it when they watched the older people like walking in front of them, and that would kind of became their pace. They started to walk slower, and they like slowed down, and they had it all measured out. And I'm butchering that, but it was the same thing.
No,
like,
I get what
think
you're saying.
What you're saying there is like, yeah, you're looking at that and like
what you see will motivate you, or will motivate you positive or negative. Yeah,
I appreciate you saying this because prior to you talking about the metaphor to me is really meaningful. Like, why would you do that? Like that's a question I've asked you a couple times. Like, why would you even subject yourself to that? But this deal of even what you were just saying about the journey. There's like this. You're giving each other tips while you're still running your own thing. You're like, hey, I've been there before, and there's so many like encouraging things in that to either eat the meat, spit out the bones. Like maybe that's good advice, maybe that's not good advice. That applies to me, that doesn't apply to me, but there's motivation to.
Well, you sound like we pass each other.
Yeah.
We're like, all right, man, keep it up, good job, and that's how everybody was.
Definitely, yeah. And it gives that even that little sense of that thumbs up from a distance. Just
it was
a long
so
way.
hot. There were some people that just were like,
I think they're about 14 or 15 in the 50K that didn't quite finish it.
Right. Yeah. Typically, it's not. That's less. More people finish usually, but that heat just tore people apart.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It's about, I think it was like the 13, like right about the half marathon mark, and I must have passed. You mentioned Jonathan, he was second in the guys, I believe. I must have passed him. It must have been him because I was like, hey man, we were at one of the unmanned water stations. I'm like, hey, what's your watch say for distance? Because I was so worried. I was like, am I doing this right? I'm on the right trail.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm right here. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm same range. And so I kept on going, and got to Hell Hill aid station around like mile 17-ish. And I was like, hey guys, can I get some? And again, the aid station workers, the volunteers at these races are man, they're freaking incredible. Like these people they're grabbing the water from you. They're trying to refill it, cool you down, giving you snacks. And that's the best part. You get all this food. Like there's Oreos, there's chips, there's Coke. I had so many Cokes. I mean, yeah.
It makes me feel sick.
That was the cool
running
part
makes me feel sick, and thinking of drinking that and eating that makes me feel, I don't know. That's cool though.
But from there,
support.
It's about 3 miles or so from that part to the start finish line, where you do one more loop after that. And so my wife and my kids met me there, and one of the guys, I don't think I was hearing it right, but I could have swore he said, hey, you're in second. I was like, oh, cool. Man, who is this guy in front of me? And so from that start finish line, you don't have any manned aid stations till the next Hell Hill, which is like 10 miles away. So I take off, and I'm like, I don't freaking see anybody out here. And I'm looking like, who is, like, I'm chasing a ghost. I can't see him. And I'm just kind of going. And
was that motivating when they said that you were in second?
That's what I was thinking too. Has to be.
At first part it was. I'm like, I got one. Okay, I gotta chase this guy. And then about 3 miles in, and it was maybe noon 30, getting to 1, because I hit the marathon mark about 1:30. I remember the timestamp on my phone, and it was so hot, and I was like, I ran out of water between the unmanned and Hell Hill, and it's that back side of the hill where it's just heat. There's like no wind. There's no shade. You're just the full.
Chris, you did the same thing, so you know exactly what he's talking about.
Oh yeah,
where he's running.
Yeah,
I'm like just trying to imagine in my mind.
It's a lot of this, and when you get down to
I'm imagining hell. That's what.
When you get down into like the valley area, it's super hot too because there's no relief. And I'm like, screw it, that dude. Just give it to him. I don't even know where he's at. This is ridiculous. Like, and that's where my thought was, just lay down and take a nap. Lay down and take a nap. Because it was, but my wife gave me a verse, a Bible verse that I memorized, and I literally probably said this verse like 100 times in my head.
You passed him while you're looking that up. You passed him in the last 3 miles of the race?
No, there was no one ahead of me.
Oh, so they said you were in second, but you were in first?
Well, I heard you're in second.
Oh.
I'm not saying that's what he said, but that's what my mind heard.
Gotcha.
He probably didn't say that.
Okay.
But yeah, so there was no one ahead of me.
Okay.
I was chasing a ghost. And that's why I'm so pissed off. I'm like, I don't know where this dude's at. And so I'm about a mile out from Hell
how did
Hill.
he train for this?
The last time.
Yep.
And I'm just walking. I'm like, screw this crap. Like, I'm just going to walk up the hill here. I get to the aid station. I'm like, hey, guys. And they're like, dude, you're in first. I'm like, what? So I'm like, I can sit here for a little bit then and get some ice. And so, yeah. But here's the verse, okay. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 9. There's no, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. And that first part, the whole like, no, I strike my body to make it a slave. Another translation is I discipline my body over and over and over again, and how my mind read it, not to give in to the flesh or the weakness. And it's just a really cool metaphor in my mind of like, okay, no matter how hard or hurtful it gets, there's a bunch of other people in the past and currently who have it a lot worse than I do right now. And it was just a good, like, there's people behind me who will be out here in the heat more than me, and they're still going. Just keep going. And that was like the part that I think really gave me motivation when it was that kind of heat. And you mentioned it, you're there at the aid station too, like, I don't know if I can finish this. But the fact that you were out there longer than I was, and that was, I think, even more cool or more motivation, is that you were out there in the heat longer than I was, and you finished it too. Like, you had more exposure than I did. Well, here's the cool part is that, so the 50K, there's a 9-hour cutoff. So you start at 8, you have to finish by 5. So you have to finish within 9 hours to get your belt buckle on it, essentially. And you got in at 8:30, right?
I did.
Yeah.
So, and again, that's the support and the coaching and everything and like you said, it's battling the demons, right? And it's having that strong faith base, talking about Bible study, dropping a Bible verse, and it's having that strong foundation of why you started the race. And so when I get to this aid station, like you mentioned, at some point, like you have your A, B, and C goals of I want to get this time. Okay, well, what's the next best thing? What can I do? And I get to mile 29, and I get to this aid station, and I quit. I walked up to the aid
you're
station.
Like 2-3 miles from the finish line at this point.
3.2 miles away, and I was just done. I didn't feel it was safe enough.
What were you feeling?
Dehydrated, just overheated.
Okay.
Yep. And I felt like I was going to pass out. At one point, I thought I'm going to jump in the river and cool myself off.
Because the heat index is probably pushing 105, 106 at this time.
Nate about that, jump in there, you might get shock.
Right. And which was the worst decision possible, but that's where my mind was.
Right.
I'm like, I just got to get to this. And I literally, as I'm getting up there, I'm like, okay, I made it here. I ripped off my pack, and I told them, I said, I'm done. I need help. Well, those are the 2 words, and just let them know that I'm about to fall over in this chair.
Wow.
And they put my feet up. They covered me with ice, poured some cold water on me, gave me some nutrition. I was there for about an hour. But I just thought to myself, it went to this dark of a thought of I'm not going to put myself in a position between here and the next 3.25 miles of passing out, and I'm not going to be a heat stroke story of death and my kids. It gets that deep of a thought.
No, and that's exactly where I was going with that, about legitimate reasons that justify saying not to push on versus.
Well, and then you've had that experience with the rhabdo. You're probably thinking like maybe those same thoughts creeping up of your previous experience.
That definitely popped into my head, and like I just know your mind and your body gets to the point of like, okay, you weigh the options, right?
Yeah, wisdom.
Wisdom. Yep. And so anyways, I got up and I kind of walked around, and they gave me the encouragement. These guys told me, they didn't say, hey, you should call for a ride. They said, hey, you got time. You can do this, which I wasn't telling myself, but they told me, they instilled that belief in me. I mean, I would have quit. I was ready to call the guy I rode out there with and say, hey, come pick me up. I gave it a shot, gave it my best. And
were they telling you how much time you had left?
They were.
Okay.
Yeah, they said I had about an hour and a half left to go 3.25 miles.
Which sounds easy, but when you're at that stage,
In the heat, with
No,
everything,
that doesn't sound easy to my brain at all.
even walking 20-minute miles, at that point is pushing the limits of if you take a break or anything within that, you're pushing the time limit. But gosh, they gave me the encouragement, and once I started going, I had ice on my head and draped my T-shirt over, and I still battled some things along the way, but it just felt the encouragement of, and then when you start going, again, you're out remote spaces where you could make a phone call for someone to come pick you up, but there's just no other option. You just got to figure it out and do it. And so
I love that, because it wasn't like there wasn't any. You use the word encouragement. Like, there's no talking down. There's no but then there's the word I've been using as a parent is nudging. Like, I'm trying to nudge you without just forcing you to do something. I want to, and it sounds like they're trying to encourage by saying, yeah, you still got, but I don't know.
That's a great parallel to the kid thing, though.
Yeah, accountability is still there, right? Like, hey, you can still finish what you set out to do, but there's not a.
We're never going to put our kids in a dangerous situation. I think the people at the aid station would have stepped up and said, if they would have felt that I was really in danger, would have said, hey, we're not going to let you go anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Ran in that hot of weather?
No.
Because, that's, again, now you got a reference point in your experience that allows you to overcome other things. And it's kind of like,
yeah, you hope you never experience it ever again.
Yep. I went home. My kid's outside riding his bike, and I told him, I said, Cooper, it's hot out. Let's go inside. Wait a second.
Are you going back out there in September to do?
I was signed up for the 100, but I'd switched my race to that 50K.
Are you doing? Okay.
So I'm not going back out for the 100 at this point.
I think I'm going to do the 20 miler out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think because you have a lot more endurance, I think, build up than I do, because you've done a lot longer distances in the sense.
I think my mind kind of knows what to expect, especially when you reach that point. But I'm not trained right now in a spot where I feel like I can attack that, and I just I'm going to push it down the road, unfortunately. But it's still on the bucket list to get that 100-mile mark. So I bet you could go out and do it. And it's one of those things too. It's funny. Like, I talked to the guy I rode out there with. I said, if you had to right now, like, you could run or walk 100 miles. Like, if you absolutely, the worst case scenario is, again, a dark thought. But if your family's in a white van being kidnapped and you have to run 100 miles to get them back, like, you're gonna do it. Yeah. If you can take your mind there when you're running, but again, that's when you weigh the options of life and death.
Yeah, a lot of reference.
Well, hey, man. Again, appreciate you coming on. And
thank you. I had a great time. This was a fun conversation. I'd love to do it again at some point.
So
thanks for having me.
So, what do you have next race wise for you after the September one?
I'm going to do the half, the marathon half. So we kind of take turns running
at the Crossroads.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm going to do the half at the Crossroads.
When is that?
November 2nd, Saturday.
Oh, that's the
Crossroads. What we're doing. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll be out.
So
I'll be there with you.
We'll be all on the finish or the start line together.
I didn't even know what I was signing up for. I just knew November 2nd.
That's trust.
Do you have anything next year looking at for the ultra distance?
Not for the ultra distance yet.
Okay.
So, but I'm not going to lose sight of that. I'll get something on the radar. So
again,
jump out there together.
You did awesome, man, and it was cool seeing.
Thanks,
that.
you too. Yeah,
it'd be cool to do that West Virginia one together sometime.
Yes. Nope. We'll put that on the list. I'd go out there with you. Yeah, it sounds good. But thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, thanks for sharing,
awesome.
Chris.
A lot of fun.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to Incredibly Ordinary. If you want to hear more stories like the one you heard today, be sure to click the follow button so you can be notified when new episodes become available. For more information about today's episode, or if you have an amazing story to share, or want to feature your business on Incredibly Ordinary podcast, then we want to hear from you. Find our contact details in today's show notes and get in touch. Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analysis of Billings Group It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, Private Client Services, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by Billings Group, or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Securities offered by registered representatives of Private Client Services, member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor. Private Client Services, Billings Group, and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.